Talofa lava and welcome to Samoa, host of the Pacific Labor Mobility Annual Meeting 2022. The Pacific Labor Mobility Annual Meeting, otherwise known as PLMAM, is provided in the PACER Plus arrangement on labor mobility as a mechanism to advance regional labor mobility cooperation. The theme for PLMAM 2022 is reinvigorating labor mobility cooperation for development. The 2022 PLMAM is uniquely significant as it is the first opportunity to meet in person since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019. It is therefore an opportunity for Pacific labor mobility stakeholders to re-engage, reset, and recommit to advancing an effective level of cooperation that can enhance mutual development gains from labor mobility. Come join us as we look back on a 4-day meeting.
The PLMAM is a significant medium by which we are advancing inclusive regional labor mobility cooperations in the Pacific. I would like to acknowledge the support of the PACER Plus, signatories, and the ALM participants for giving Samoa the opportunity to host this meeting, even though Samoa hosted the virtual PLMAM this time last year. I thank the PACER Plus Implementation Unit as the Labor Mobility Secretariat for facilitating the logistics and meeting arrangements. Thank you to the Government of Australia and the Government of New Zealand for the continuous support towards PLMAM, including support through the PACER Plus Development Economic Cooperation Work Program and the arrangement on the labor mobility. The Government of Samoa is first committed to growing a diversified economy that is suitable and resilient to global, national, and local pressures, whilst ensuring that we continue to support measures that reflect local needs and opportunities that further enhance our national resilience. In this regard, the pathway for the development of Samoa 2021-2022 to 2025-2026 highlights increased labor mobility.
Opening the 2022 PLMAM on day 1 was a meeting for Pacific PACER Plus participants chaired by Mr. Pulotu Lyndon Chuling, CEO of Samoa's Ministry of Commerce, Industries and Labour.
I'd just like to provide some clarification on moving forward. I think we need to make some final decisions on the recommendations that has been provided. I've heard some of you loud and clear.
It's day 2 of PLMAM. After yesterday's closed session, today is the official opening of the PLMAM, and the general PLMAM program begins today with the Labour Sending Unit and approved employer conference. The focus of today is on the operational side of labour mobility, covering the recruitment, selection and education of workers, as well as their welfare and well-being while working overseas.
We come together this week to progress our shared commitment to the transformative impact of labour mobility and the economic benefits it brings. I am not going to sugarcoat it. With these benefits also comes a lot of challenges. Lots and lots of challenges. As we heard yesterday during the Pacific Caucus, there is a lot of passion to ensure that labour mobility is fair and equitable for all. Starting from our communities, families, individuals, right through to our employers. The PLAM is a sharing of our rich and unique understanding of pathways to potential economic opportunity. It strengthens our Pacific regional approach in an increasingly globalized world. Labour mobility celebrates the big blue continent. The most critical asset is our people.
The LSU experience, how we're managing labour mobility in Fiji, the recruitment pathways. At the moment, Fiji has 2 main pathways that employers can always recruit from.
There are a number of ways on which the employer can recruit or select the workers. The first one is in-country recruitment. And as borders are open now for Kiribati, so we encourage employers to come, visit Kiribati and recruit at the same time.
We have a population of about 11,000. Many of us can work, but the breakdown is we've got about 51% of male and 49% female. There is not actually a legal limit of when to work, but the allowed or the common practice is 15 plus for new entrants. So 62% of those, including male and female, make up the Nauru working population.
We established a PNG Labour Mobility Unit, which is an independent unit within the Department of Treasury. The unit reports directly to a ministerial committee. The Minister for Treasury is the chair of that committee.
Now, the mobilization success, we have the Samoan liaison officer in Australia and also in New Zealand. And we're going to have another liaison officer in Australia due to the biggest number of workers in Australia and also New Zealand as well. And these liaison officers, they communicate with us on issues, especially that requires urgent attention of the Samoan government.
In terms of the welfare support, we have, I'm happy to introduce one of our colleagues here, Dean, who's in a liaison officer based in Australia that support us on the ground in that. And we also have the ongoing support system from the PLF, which is very important to us, helping us with the recruitment process and also the rest of the support organizations that are helping us there.
When the Labour Mobility Program began, the number of households participating in the Labour Mobility Program is highest in Tongatapu, which is the main island, with over 2,500 participated in either the Australian or New Zealand program or both.
Total workers job in Australia, 7,420. Remitted almost 50 million USD to Timor-Leste. Established a merit-based worker selection process to reduce nepotism for transparency and equity.
Mobilization success after 2 years after COVID, we successfully started to mobilize again. We had 20 workers to Australia, and we're looking at 90 workers to New Zealand.
We are currently one of the largest sending countries in the Pacific within the Labour Mobility Program, but that doesn't mean that we do not have the challenges in the program. The scheme sits within the Ministry of Internal Affairs under the leadership of the Commissioner of Labour as provided by law, and the LSU form parts of the wider Department of Labour and Employment Services.
So I think we also need to recognise that, you know, COVID was another evil and we can learn from COVID, but I don't think we must make all our decisions based on COVID. The scheme was working extremely well before that, and I think COVID has been very disruptive. And I think for AEs and everybody else, if we can learn one thing from COVID, we all got round the table and collaborated and managed to bring in a record number of workers through very extremely difficult conditions that varied from state to state and from territory to territory in Australia. So I think we must congratulate ourselves, and I think we must learn from that collaboration, because I think we're forgetting that collaboration.
But productivity is pretty important for employers, and RSE has been fantastic for our industries. And just to give you a quick understanding of that, since 2012, wine has grown 36% in export revenues to $2 billion in New Zealand. Apple and pears has grown 113%. to $850 million. Kiwifruit has grown 175% to $2.75 billion, and that's just the main sectors involved, and RSE has been fundamental to its growth.
On day 3 of PLMAM was the Development Impact Workshop, where we heard from regional and international organizations on the development impact of labor mobility. We also heard from case studies of best practices in Tonga, Samoa, and Vanuatu.
APTC has been delivering in the Pacific since 2007, and we have increased that delivery over years and changed the delivery because we have to. We have to be able to meet the needs of industry, local institutions and governments across the region to ensure that we are delivering skills for people to have graduate outcomes, employment outcomes. It's no point delivering skills if people don't have that outcome.
In step 1, the labour mobility pathway would have already been clarified to students. They would have the option to registering for the Ahapanolo Labour Mobility Work Ready Board. It can also work closely with the private sector at this stage to establish arrangement for ATI alumni who are currently employed to use labour mobility as an internship program where their staff can acquire international level skills and return to support the development of their businesses.
I already alluded to the definition of reintegration, but what we're trying to answer during this session is how do we make it a sustainable process? And in this regard, we are looking at sustainable reintegration as a process where the worker or the migrant has reached a level of economic self-sufficiency. They've also attained social stability within the community that they came from, within their family, and also making sure that they have psychosocial well-being to allow them to cope with the migration dynamics.
We have a lot to applaud with what this young man has achieved. And again, it's about somebody that has gone away, come back with a bit of money, enough to buy a taxi, and look at where he is now. There he is, his smile. Yeah, that's him.
The World Bank, unless, I'm sure most of you know about us, but we are not a commercial bank. We are an international organization that works on international development. We have had a long association with Pacific Labour Mobilities in the last 15, 16 years. In 2006, the World Bank initiated a small pilot to recruit Ni Vanuatu for work in New Zealand. And this pilot kind of served as a proof of concept that didn't kind of work. And it contributed to the establishment of the RSE, and we are very proud of that. Since then, our team has conducted various studies to examine the impact of the various labor mobility schemes, including the RSE, the Pacific Seasonal Worker Pilot Schemes, which is the predecessors of the SWP, as well as the SWP itself. And these studies, which have all been published and made publicly available, have demonstrated positive impact of seasonal worker programs and facilitated their continuation and expansion in the last decade or so.
Today I will be talking about SSWFP, which stands for Strengthening Seasonal Workers Family Program. It is a support group that focuses on the welfare of both workers and their households, not just from one end, but from the both ends, from Vanuatu and from New Zealand as well. SSWFP was started in 2011 by me and my wife. It started with an idea, and speaking today as one of the supervisors of the company, I realized that when the workers know that their families are well supported and looked after, they perform to the best of their abilities and enjoy their work overseas.
I think my key takeaways are really that We've scaled up very quickly. I think it was a really positive thing through COVID that both New Zealand and Australia were able to keep their borders open to Pacific workers, and we saw a significant increase in numbers. And that provided a really important stream of income for many Pacific families, and was also hugely beneficial to Australia for the same and New Zealand throughout the same period, in that we had, you know, really, as I said before, productive workers who were able to fill roles in critical sectors. But I think with such a big scale up, there's some work that we need to do to make sure that everything that sits around the program, around the scheme, also matches that scale up. And so I think we got some very clear messages from Pacific delegates this week that they really would like to see us invest more in cultural competency and really having the cultural underpinnings to the scheme right. And we're very, very committed to doing that. I think there are also some clear messages around the fact that while Pacific labour mobility has very strong benefits for Pacific countries, for Australia, for New Zealand, there are also some social and economic impacts to Pacific labour mobility that countries are now starting to feel. And it's really important that we work together as a Pacific family to find the ways to address those.
For us, this was really an invaluable opportunity to talk about New Zealand's approach to Pacific labour mobility, in particular an invaluable opportunity to start to talk about the RSE policy review, which we're undertaking from now until middle of next year. So for us, the priority is hearing from Pacific partners as to where they see the issues, where they see the impacts in the RSE scheme, what they would like to see improved, what they would like to see in the future from the RSE scheme going forward.
Pese,